Hey everyone, welcome back to Modern React tutorial series. And in this video, we are going to talk about conditional renderings. So this is a new video in this series. If you haven't watched other videos, I highly recommend you go and watch those videos. Link is in the description. So programming is all about making decisions, and React can't stay away from it. Like in JavaScript, we make conditions using if and else block, right? So say suppose I have a variable age is equals to 16. I can make a condition, right? If age is greater than 18, I can console.log you can drink beer, something like this. Or I can say please drink juice, something like this. So like how I can write conditional logic in JavaScript, I can use same JavaScript to write conditional rendering of my components. Because when you're going to create React application, you have to render some of the components based on some condition. Like say suppose you have sent an AJAX request on the server side. You got the data, you will render the list. And say suppose the data load got failed, right? You need to render the error component. So all of these things, and there can be many other scenarios where you need to apply conditional logic to render your components. So we are going to see some of the examples how you can write conditional code, conditional rendering code in React in this video. So let's get started. So I'm going to remove my JavaScript code for now. And we're going to use greater example only, but we're going to expand our greater example here. So I'm going to start with creating some components here. So I'm going to write my first component, which will be greet user. And it is going to return a div with hello, welcome back, something like this. I'm going to put semicolon at the end. I'm going to create one more component, greet guest, and this is going to return. So I'm going to copy this one and paste it here. Please log in. Okay, so I've created two different components here. One is greet user and second one is greet guest. So based on some condition, I'm going to render one of the component. So we need a parent component, right? To render any of the component based on some condition. So let's create that parent component. So I'm going to create a greeter component, greeter, and obviously this is going to get props. So I'm going to pass props to it. Let's collect one of the props called is logged in. So I'm going to pass this props is logged in to this greeter component, which we can collect from the components props is logged in. So now I'm going to check condition, right? If is logged in, that means if the user is logged in, I'm going to return a component. Which component? Greet user, because user is logged in, right? Otherwise, I'm going to return greet guest. See that? It's really simple. So if you compare this greeter component with greet user or greet guest, when I create this component instance, greet user component instance, it's going to directly return me the HTML or JSX, I would say, the UI part of this component. If you come back and compare this with the greeter component, see that I'm returning two different components here. One is a greet user and second is a greet guest. But they are not getting returned at the same time. I'm checking a condition. So if this props, this is logged in value is true. If it is true, I'm going to return greet user, means this component. Or if this value is false, I'm going to return this component, greet guest. See that it's really simple, like how we can write JavaScript if else conditions. On the similar line, we can return our components based on the conditions. And this condition can be, complex. I just written based on one of the prop value, but you can write some logic here. And based on the logic, you can return your components. See that how powerful React is? We can use conditions to render our components. Now let's create our greeter component. So I already have this code here, React DOM.render. So I'm going to remove comments and I'm going to render my greeter component. Greeter, and I'm going to pass my prop is logged in is equals to, initially I'm going to pass a false value, so I'm going to pass false. And now if I save, see that hello, please log in, because is logged in is false. So this condition is not going to get executed. It will fall back to the else condition. And it's returning greet guest. And what greet guest is returning? Hello, please please log in, right? Let's change this condition to true. And now if I save, see that? Hello, welcome back. So it's really simple to return the component value based on some JavaScript condition. Okay, so let's move on and create one more example where I'll tell you like how you can store the components, the elements in the variables, and then you're going to render them. So for that, I'm going to comment this one. So I think you need it just for the practice. I can show the same example here only in this similar example, but let's have some more practice. Practice makes man perfect. So this time I'm going to create one more component. I'm going to create login button component, and it's going to get props. Inside this component, I'm going to return a button. This is going to be a login button, and let's add some event handlers. So I'm going to pass that handler as a prop. So this will be props.onClick. Let me copy this one and create one more. That will be logout button. And let me change this label to logout. So I have two different components, login button, logout button. Now I need aggregator for this. I'm going to create an aggregator component. Before that, I just need this greeter component. So let me copy and paste this greeter component from here, because I'm going to use this component also along with login button and logout button. So I'm going to paste that, and this greeter component is going to get the props, and it's going to return me greet user or greet guest. So I need these components also. Let me copy these components. So I'm going to copy these and I'm going to paste it on the top. So I have 4 different components: greet user, greet guest. So we already have that example basically. So let me realign my code a bit. Okay, so this is what I have. I have a greeter component, which is like returning me greet user based on some is logged in or value. I have login button and logout button. Now I'm going to create one more component called login controller. So now this controller component is going to control what to show to the user. I mean, whether to show login button or to show logout button. So I'm just creating components. We are not yet to the point where I'm going to write the conditional logic. So this is also going to get a props as a value. And inside this login controller, I'm going to return something like this. So I will have a div, and inside that I'm going to have a greeter. So I'll be showing greeter component based on is logged in property, right? And here below this greeter component, I need to show login button or a logout button. So first of all, I'm going to have a message and then a button. So if user is logged in, I need to show logout button, and if user is not logged in, I need to show login button. So let me save. Before that, I need to render this component. So let me copy this one from here and paste it here. And this time we are going to render login controller, and I'm not going to pass any props for now. Just going to hard code is logged in is equals to maybe true. If I save my program, see that we got hello welcome back, but we don't have a button here. Now I'm going to write a logic to render that button, but this time we are going to save our elements into variable. So I'm going to create a state here is logged in. So this will be our state because I need to change this value based on click of a button. And I'm going to write a function to change is logged in value. So set logged in will be that function. And I'm going to use react.useState. You don't need to use this React when we are going to use React development environment. So for now, just remember we need to use react.useState because we're using CodePen. So initially I'm going to keep this value as false. Now I'm going to create one variable called letButton, and initially the value will be undefined. Now based on the condition of this is logged in value, so if is logged in is true, I need to show logout button, right? So I'm going to store the component value in a variable. So I'm going to use my logout button, which I have created, logout button, and this is going to pass a prop as on click, and here I'm just going to have a handle click function, which I'm going to write now. So let's write handle click. I'm going to use arrow functions. Just keep it like that. Okay, so I have created a variable button. The value is undefined. So I'm checking is logged in. Initially, value of is logged in is false. Okay, so if it is false, I'm going to show the login button. If it is true, I'm going to show the logout button. So we need to write the else condition here. I'm going to copy, or let me rewrite. Button is equals to login button on click. I'm going to use save handler function. See that? So now I'm going to render this button variable. I would have written same code here, that if else condition, but I want to show different ways of writing conditional logic in React. So I'm checking the condition here. So this is good. You can encapsulate the logic of rendering component at one place, something like this, or maybe you can have a function for it. It depends. There are different ways of writing conditional logic in React. So I'm checking if is logged in is true. I'm going to render logout button, and if it is false, it is going to render login button. So now I'm going to render this button. Now this is a variable, right? JavaScript variable I'm using to store my elements. So this is all JSX. So I can just use the curly bracket syntax to render the JavaScript. Conditional JavaScript, which is like a JSX. So I just need to use that variable button here. Now if I save, see that I got login button because value of my is logged in is false. That's why that does mean user is not logged in. So that's why I'm showing the login button. I need to correct this message. So for that, I'm going to pass this is logged in value here. That was hard coded. So now let's see if I save, see that hello, please log in, because user is not logged in. This state is false. Now I can change this state inside this function because I have written onClick handler, and this is a prop because this prop is getting handled here inside these buttons, right? So I'm passing onClick handler, that onClick as a prop, and actual click is happening inside the login button and the logout button. So I'm going to change my state once user clicks on any of the button here. So I'm just going to call this set logged in function, this function, to change my state value. And here I'm just going to write something like this. I'm setting the value using the not operator. Okay, so I'm just toggling the value here. Set logged in. If user is logged in, toggle it to, if it is true, toggle it to false. If it is false, toggle it to true. So now if I save and if I click on login, see that? So basically I'm rendering this button, any of the button, logout button or login button, which I'm storing in a variable based on my state. See that? It's really simple. Now you can write this similar code, you don't need to create this variable. You can straight away go and write this code. So I can copy this probably and I can paste it here. But I'm going to show you other way also. Like we can use ternary operator. If you know in JavaScript, there are multiple ways of writing if-else statement. So we can use ternary operator also here. So I'm just going to comment this login controller. Before that, I'm going to copy this one. So just to keep the code for the reference. And I'll show you the example of ternary operator, how you can use ternary operator to render your components. I'm just going to paste this one again. And I will write the comment here using ternary operator. Okay, so this is ternary operator example. So I'm going to use curly brackets only, and inside this curly bracket I can directly write the logic. So I'm going to check the value of is logged in. If it is true, right, see that I can use this question mark. If it is true, I'm going to render this button, right? And if it is false, I'm going to render the other one, login button. So I don't need this code here, so I can remove it. This is clean. This looks good, right? You can use the ternary operator for conditional rendering in React. I'm going to save. And I think this is not working. So what's the error? Okay, I got some error in my program. I see reference error, login controller. What happened? Let me check. I have a login controller which is taking props. Okay, sorry, I had a typo here. I need to use is logged in, save. See that? I can click and my program, my application is working fine. So there are multiple ways through which you can render your components. You can use variables where you can store your components into variables and then you can render those variables. Like I have shown you very simple example using if and else, you can return your components. And I have shown you like how you can use ternary operator to render your components. Now you can use all other logical operators in JavaScript. So let me show you one example of that. So I'm just going to write one div here. So I'm going to create one div. And inside that div, I'm going to write some condition. So maybe based on is logged in value, say suppose I have is logged in and I want to show some component, right? Maybe a paragraph. So I can write something like this and I'll show something like you have some message, something like this. I save. So if I click on login, see that? So I can use this and operator, even I can use or operator if I want to show or if I want to render some of the component. So there are a lot of possibilities, you can use different ways. This is one way. So I've shown you different ways of rendering component. So follow this video, practice this, and you're going to get the idea like how we can use conditional rendering in React. This is really important because when we are going to write some projects in React, we're going to use conditional rendering so many times. So this is it for this video. This is about conditional rendering in React. I hope you like this video. If you like it, please hit that like button. It helps YouTube algorithm to rank my video. I'm putting a lot of hard work in creating this quality videos for free. So please hit that like button and please subscribe to my channel. That will give me a lot of confidence to create these videos. So your help is really appreciated. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to see you in the next React video.